Hello, Soul Tribe. Thank you for joining Jake and myself tonight. We're so happy to be here with you guys. And Jake, welcome. So nice
Thank
to
you so
have you back
much.
on.
I'm so glad to be here, and welcome to everyone watching on my channel as well. We're really excited to have this opportunity to share with you guys.
Yeah, it's cool that we finally figured out the technology to
Oh yeah.
simulcast. So tonight we're talking about authenticity is a higher frequency. We're going to talk a little bit about our journeys. We're also going to weave a little bit of the magic from the hypnosis session. And I was saying to Jake as well, if I get like a coughing fit start, I'm doing a celery detox and it's like causing things to move. So I'll mute and I'll let you take the floor if anything happens tonight. But yeah, welcome. We can see gorgeous Emma's here, Corbin, beautiful Lynn, Larry. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And
Mhm.
Lorianne, hello, gorgeous. So yeah, you were hosting an amazing session of hypnotherapy for me, and I know that even before the session started, I think we had a conversation the week before, and we were talking about filming, and it's like, no, let's actually just have a discussion and talk about like what's going on in life, and we kept filling into themes around authenticity.
Mhm.
So yeah, what does authenticity mean for you in this moment?
In this moment, what a big question. I mean, I feel like authenticity has been a huge theme in my life, like throughout and in different ways. I mean, I'm an Aquarius moon, and so that Aquarian like need to be myself and be unique and stand out. Sometimes has tossed me into overperforming or taking on things that maybe didn't feel as authentic to me, but I thought, oh, that's weird. Oh, that's unique. I want to go that direction. So I think authenticity in this very moment has meant a lot of introspection. And I mean, we were talking about this right before the show, tuning out the noise and really kind of honing in on, no, what is it for me? What's important to me? What resonates for me and what doesn't? And making choices based on that rather than those external forces.
Yeah, and I think that's good. You know, if we can think about it in terms of a radio. And I said to Jake, like, just one of the shifts I've experienced after that amazing session that we had is just finding it so much easier to be able to hold, I guess, my line of authenticity, my line of like who I am on a deeper level. And it's funny because it's also happening spontaneously. So I'm working with, holding the vision, doing meditation where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let go of everything. And this is part of like what we did for the new moon on Soul Alchemy Potions as well, was, feel and float in that state of being held within the quantum and within that plasma space. So it was since the hypnotherapy and that I automatically one night was sitting there scrolling and thinking about what do I want to do? My parents have given me money for a birthday gift. They're like, buy yourself something. And whilst my partner is talking about all these things, ideas, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to buy celery juice. So, and that, I guess, for me was like, that's the reset button. That's the thing that's going to catapult me forward to feeling amazing, feeling charged on a biophoton, cellular, molecular level in resonance with what we were talking about in the hypnosis. And so before I could overthink of it, I just pushed purchase and it's catapulted me into now joining a gym. And I just feel like I've been through the biggest change and shift this week. And it really has been through locking or blocking, I should say, the outside noise. So I'm able to more authentically just get back to like who I am on a deeper soul level. So if anyone else is needing that encouragement at home, what is it that you're being bombarded with that you need to quieten? But what is it that you can do that's like the most, I guess, authentic shift? And for me, it was knowing that that future version of self was, going to the gym, doing the fun things though, Zumba, yoga, belly dance. But yeah, what is it that you guys can do at home that you know that the future version of self is doing? Because that's just a frequency that we can attune to.
Mm-hmm. When
Yeah.
as you were sharing that, I have recently realized that I need to practice a little more of what I preach as far as connecting with my higher self and doing that on a more regular basis. And I certainly have seen the ways that I do it unconsciously, and they slip things in, and they communicate with me through synchronicities or what have you. But making that conscious connection and really putting intention into it. And so I've had a couple meditation experiences recently where I've set that intention, and I've tried out a couple different procedures and ways of putting myself in that place, and just the ability to tap into that and pull that knowledge and that wisdom through, that is authentic to you and is what your soul wants you to do, is just so much more powerful than searching outside. And I mean, we'll get more into kind of our personal journeys, but that external versus internal has been a huge theme in my life.
We're always sort of like, you and I, like resonating or going through things at a similar time. And that's, where it's great to also be working with our soul tribe, because I know a lot of you listening to this will be like, oh, I've been feeling the shift towards that, or that's exactly like what I've been anchoring. And is there any one thing that you can put your finger on that feels like it's given you the most growth, or kind of like the biggest awareness, just like recently?
I mean, I feel like the ways that I am no longer able to like hide from myself or like delude myself into making the wrong decision or going the wrong path. Like there's just like less and less like delay, I guess, or between like realization, like, oh, look at that, I'm falling into my shadow, I'm slipping into that pattern again, and that need to choose differently. And I think that the ways that I have had to learn how to, oh my gosh, hi baby girl.
Say hello, everyone. Hi, Jake.
Hi Lyra. Hello.
She's wanting to play. So if you're hearing banging things in the background, she's trying to get my attention.
Classic. We are on the cat's time, they are not on our time.
That's so true.
But yeah, just that idea of tuning into myself rather than going externally, which, if I can say that again, like the importance of tuning into your own knowing and learning to trust that is a process. Because even just this week, I had a moment where I meditated, I connected with my higher self, I got my answer, and I was feeling good about it. And then I went to Corbin and I was like, hey, so like, is this good? Is this okay? And he's like, Jake, oh my God, listen to your higher self. And it's one of those moments where, like, in the moment, even as I was uttering those words, I was like, here I am again doing this, where I'm like needing that external validation.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. And it's funny because I've sort of caught myself before, maybe seeking that from, my partner or things. And just, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's like just noticing or letting it arise. And then it's like being able to regulate the nervous system and calm everything back down. And it kind of makes you a badass. It's what I've discovered.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So it's more kind of like looking at, okay, how can I support myself more? Or how can I maybe like reinforce that fear or doubt and do the opposite? So I'm looking into, okay, I'm feeling this way. And I know over the last couple of months, a lot of the channeling or messages that have come through in readings, and I'm not sure, maybe even in the hypnosis, but it was about when we're having like one external circumstance or thing happen in our lives, how would we reframe it? What would we like instead? And so that's what I've really been practicing. So, all right, feeling frustrated with not pouring time into myself, or not feeling as healthy, or, that vitality that I would like. So it's like, right, what would I like instead? And before I can overthink it, making that commitment, or, going in to just have a look at the gym. And then all of a sudden I've signed up. little things like that. I feel, are important to catch that little subconscious voice, or that smaller part of us that is maybe speaking fears or speaking about like your doubts and worry. And we need to be able to lovingly kind of either tackle it or like swaddle it, depending on like what we need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Emma's getting ringing in the left ear, she's saying. And you guys let us know if you have a question as well, because, this is very much for our soul tribe that we have these conversations, as well as like, we love it as well. And there's so many epiphanies that come out of it. So let's get into talking about authenticity. First, I think if we can go into our stories, and then we'll dive into some of the things that came up in the hypnosis session, as well as try and answer as many questions as we can too.
Love it. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So do you want to start with your journey into authenticity?
Oh, yeah. I think I'll start with saying, in my 20s, it was earlier on in my 20s. I was like 23 or something like that, 22. And I had this moment, actually a couple moments, because it wasn't just like one singular moment. It popped up a few times where I had these thoughts of like, I don't even know who I am. Like, I have no idea who I am, what's me, what's someone else, what do I want, what does someone else want for me, or what do I think someone else wants for me. And that was like kind of the breaking point where I started to figure out a return to self. And truly, hypnosis and finding this path has been huge in unlocking more confidence, more passion, like just a resonance with me. But I guess backing up, I grew up in the church, and if you've watched my channel, you'll know a little bit about my story. But I grew up in a very traditional Christian family, and in a lot of ways, I've come back around to understanding so much of what they taught as truth, and yet there are those things that that, especially when I was younger, just didn't sit right with me and forced me to kind of break out on my own and forge my own path and figure out my own place within spirit. And I think that I'm sure a lot of people in this soul tribe have had similar experiences or their own version. The situations that we plan for ourselves at that soul level before we incarnate are oftentimes pretty uncomfortable, especially if you've got some tough lessons to learn. But it's through that uncomfortableness that you're Corbin's been talking a lot about like shining the diamond or shining the pearl, and this idea of like pressure, making that beauty. And I think that the pressures in our life help us to move along that journey. And so for me, growing up in the church with Christianity and loving the love part of it, loving like the serving and the caring and all of the positive pieces, but the fear and the control over just never sat right with me. And as you can imagine, my sexuality and being gay was a big catapult to kind of push me out of the nest and say, no, you have work to do, get to it. Because I think in a different world and on a different timeline, I stayed in the church and I, played it safe and stayed where I was comfortable. And if I had done that, I would have certainly not be the same person I am today.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting to think of that crossroad of, that parallel reality and what could have been.
Right.
Yeah.
It is really interesting. So I feel like kind of the short version is that journey. And obviously there was a lot more detail going on. And in more recent years, I catapulted more into an atheist lane and kind of believed in nothing. And that led me to a pretty dark place and kind of losing myself even more when my goal was to find myself. And I think that the ways that we absorb those around us, and I mean, you've talked about this plenty of times, Soul, that way that, the people we surround ourselves with, the energies that are around, we soak those up and those affect us and those change us. And I think that, yeah, there's just a lot to be said about getting quiet, because it really wasn't until I removed myself and some of it not on my own volition, obviously 2020, and things shifted for a lot of us. And I think that quiet time was needed for us to grow into more authentic us. But yeah, I think that's a little bit of a nutshell. It's always hard to, make it succinct.
Yeah.
You're talking about your whole life, right?
Exactly. And it's like when you're living through it, it's hard to sort of catch all the key moments, or, when you're talking, things that you haven't thought about in a really long time can pop up, or, you think, oh, I forgot to mention, significant things. So
Mhm.
you've just brought up, that sort of, I guess, split in the timeline of where, making that decision or that choice. And I think sometimes when we make the ones that are in resonance with our birth chart, like if we go into the birth chart and we see, oh yeah, you're supposed to, like, be a pillar of light in your community for people to live authenticity. Oh my gosh, Mercury retrograde, it can just go away today.
Mhm.
um you guys know what I'm saying. But we will often see, okay, this person does have like this particular placement to be in more of a leadership role, or to shine light, to be that torchbearer to help other people live those authentic lives for themselves. So I think we definitely see that within you. And I'll have to check in with Corbin about your astrology to see if he sees that up as well. And I can see Corbin saying as well, growing up, being a twin, alone time has been a huge finding for authentic self. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think that's important to remember too, that we do actually need to sometimes withdraw to, ask ourselves these deeper questions. And I think, yes, that's right, Lara. I think there's Rosella outside that she wants to eat. Um, she can't reach the birds, luckily, but she likes to think that she is, that high on the food chain apex hunter. So
Mhm.
we'll just let her have that. That's her authenticity.
Right.
um, and I'll just read Ben's comment too. So I think that we, with all the difficulties and changes of this world, uh, walking it with no belief system removes an anchor. We definitely do not need religion, but we do need a belief system for sure. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
it helps keep us on track. So my experience growing up, always seeing auras, and seeing and connecting with different, whether it's like elementals or fairies and ets, and experiencing those heightened spiritual senses of where I saw beyond that physical spectrum of just this 3D reality. For me, I think there's a stubbornness that's maybe within like my belief system, that it's like when everyone's like, oh, that's just imagination, or things like that. When I was younger, it almost made me double down on things more. Like, no, I need to be able to like prove this to my family or to my parents. And I think we can definitely see that, 40 something years later, and how that turned out. It's so, this is where belief system is important, because think about it, like most between age 2 to 3, if you're lucky, up to age 7, a lot of kids lose touch with the true reality and that true supernatural sense of who we are, and they shut down their psychic senses. So, just based on what you guys were saying about belief system and what Ben was saying, I think that's where I can see that, having that really supported me. uh, yeah, and when we talk about path split, for me, I have a really definitive moment of choosing, it was either go into acting or into natural medicine. And it was once I started to go down that path at age 17, before I finished high school, I started to study a couple of subjects that I was looking at for college. And that just changed my whole path, as well as having a baby at 20 was definitely like a change in the path. Like if I'm to look into, maybe having explored that other world and going into like the acting side of things, which luckily I did not. Now that we see everything happening, I think it was more just an interest to support it. I can see it in the astrology, but I think it's just helped with ease on camera, and just feeling comfortable with that. But yeah, I would have been living a totally different life. Who knows what country I would be living in. Um,
I love that so
and
much because I had a similar dream of being an actor, and even earlier than that, when I was in my teens, I wanted to be a director.
oh
And
wow.
yeah, what a different life that would have been.
Maybe we're working together like in a parallel reality.
Oh, I have to imagine. I have to
I can
imagine.
imagine
Making
that.
some really good films, I'm sure.
I'm sure, and it'd probably be on awakening and, all of the cool subjects. So yeah, I think I could have had a very different life, but I really see, like, when I look into my astrology chart, and I think maybe this might be a show to explore with Corbin, which
I
has
love
been
it.
coming up like the last couple of weeks. I'm like, we need to incorporate Corbin and like really bring in the astrology side of it. Uh, I've got three yods in my chart, and I've got, I think it's a fire and an earth trine. So I know there's like really pinnacle key things that I'm here to do. And I think if I can block out that sound and that noise and just authentically run the script of what I'm here to do, or maybe dissolve or dismantle things that I don't want to do, I think it's an easier way to stay on track. Have you noticed anything with your chats around astrology, and just has it made it easier for you to sort of stick to your guns and what it is that you're here to do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, whether it's astrology or human design or, any of these systems for understanding yourself and your soul and what you're here to do. And I mean, astrology is, in my opinion, one of the best, but I mean, I am married to an astrologer, so I'm a little biased.
And I
Um,
just saw Lorianne's comment, sorry to interrupt, invite Corbin
oh
for
my
his, and
gosh,
it's so funny. It's like we're just in resonance.
I love it.
Definitely.
Honestly, I thought you had seen her comment, and that's why you
No,
said
I hadn't.
love it. We're all in tune.
Yeah.
But yeah, astrology and especially understanding my own birth chart just helped me to, like, it's like having someone else describe you, where it's that more objective position that helps you to understand yourself better and understand not just like the good parts about yourself, but the bad parts too, and understanding everything in between and the different ways that, and it's not even that like one particular thing is good or bad. It's more that there's positive and negative. There's that balance in all of our charts and our signs and all of our positionings. So I think that it has, for me personally, really been huge in, yeah, solidifying, oh yeah, that is who I am, and that's who I came here to be. And it's sort of that kind of permission from the stars or permission from the cosmos to like shine your authentic light, because, well, hey, it's there in the chart. It's there, very clearly laid out, um, and it's just a really, I think, a beautiful way of understanding yourself at deeper layers and levels.
Yeah, no, I think that's really well put. And Corbin was saying as well, it's in perfect alignment with the Aquarius full moon. So thank you, Corbin. And what I was sort of thinking too when you were speaking about that was, imagine like if we could live a life not worried about what others think of us, which I think I try to do to like the best of my ability. And when I look at like all of my choices and decisions, it's funny because I'll make big changes and everyone's like, "Oh my God, like what happened?" Because it'll usually be all at once. So it's more that I think I get more in alignment with that vision. And I know from a masculine, feminine point of view, I've heard people talk about with males, because they've got the testosterone, that they'll sort of more have like a stableness throughout life, or they say if you meet someone like masculine, that they're more unlikely to go through a huge kind of change. So it's more in the dating world, I've heard this
Mm,
expressed. Whereas like with females, we have all the different hormone changes and we go through cycles, I think, every 7 years. So you might see like a different evolution. I definitely feel that within myself now that I'm going through that. But yeah, as a kid, probably more in high school, I made that other timeline decision to not, sorry, she's wanting to talk with us. I made that decision to not worry about what other people think. And so I'd have different crazy hair, or, towards the end of high school, talking about seeing auras, not keeping that hidden anymore. And, it's okay to be the weird one. It wasn't, it wasn't a bad thing, or it's okay to be the class clown. And I think that that also prepares us when we get comfortable within ourselves to be that authentic person in the group of other people.
mhm.
Yeah.
I it's That's such a big theme of my life, and it's been interesting because I've seen ways um, that I'm really comfortable being different and being weird and being my authenticity or letting that shine, and then there's other places where I'm less comfortable, and I've definitely found with different people too, it can be there can be different levels of comfortability, and I think learning that about myself and realizing the ways that I kind of hid behind the weird qualities that I felt safe expressing, but then like kept everything else really close to my chest, and the ways that I mean, because really my sexuality and being gay was, I think, part of what instilled that pattern of like hyperfixation on the external and what did people think of me, because it was a safety thing, right? I mean, I was in the church, or I was in a small town, and just not sure, you know, who is it going to be safe to talk with, who
very
is going to judge me for, you know, not only what I say, but how I say it. I mean, my voice, my mannerisms, all of these different things that that you just start to be hypercritical of, and you start to try to hide or subvert. And it's been a journey to get back to a place of expressing more freely. And I think my detour into atheism and more like the hedonist side of the world helped in a way, because it kind of was that kind of overcorrection to then come back to a little bit of a more balanced place. But I think it also has given me more compassion and understanding for others, and help me to be less judgmental, because I can be a little judgmental sometimes to myself and others.
I think that's the hard thing too, when it's to yourself, because it usually is more to yourself than what it is to others. And I think that, you know, for you going through that experience, you know, with the religion, that's hard, because it's sort of like that pre-programmed blueprint that you're given from family, that you're like, you know, before the age of 7, that's sort of set as our reality. So you had to break out of that box. And then you had to break out of the, I guess, like back in the day, like what society deems sort of like the norm, or sort of like, you know, the standard. And luckily we're living in different times. For me, I was lucky, I guess, that I didn't have religion, but I was that child asking questions around past lives or things of the universe. Like for me, that's more kind of where I was at. And it's funny, I didn't realize that until I asked my parents as a little child, you know, what happens when you die? And they're like, oh, it's just black. Like you're dead and everything's black. And my mind, you know, the starseed mind's like, yeah, but like what part of me is perceiving the blackness? If I'm like, I just knew that, okay, there must be some level of awareness or consciousness. And they didn't have an answer for that. And then, you know, experiencing or remembering past lives, and then in the library, like seeing other people talking about it, I'm like, oh, this is like my reality. This makes sense. Maybe mom and dad just, you know, didn't have that awareness of that. So I think it is important to go and explore, go seek answers, because you'll know that truth when you come across it. And it's the same for, you know, this beautiful soul tribe too. A lot of us have done those inner journeys. We've done like years of exploration, and it's brought us together here and now. And I think this is where we are so blessed and so lucky to be in such a beautiful community, the best one online, I think. One day, hopefully in person, a conference or like a sleepover party, you know, something fun. I just want to get to one of the questions that we had.
Yeah.
So Green Eye Cal said, can answer the old age question, why am I like this? Oh, I think this was maybe more a statement. But I think Larry also said black sheep. Which my friends and I refer to as the rainbow sheep of the family too. Yeah. And it's interesting. I'm seeing that come up within my family dynamics at the moment. My siblings keep telling me, they're like, oh, you're like the sweetest one in the family. You're the nice one. And my sister, she's hilarious. She's like, I'm the bitch. And she's like, no, it's okay. I claim it. I'm the bitch. And she goes, you're the... And so I'm noticing that, like, you know, our siblings, we're all kind of like getting labels of like who we are or what role we play to do with family. And as my parents are getting older, it's like we're more connecting on a different level that I kind of maybe saw my aunties and uncles connect in. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll go through cycles and changes and things. So Lorianne is also saying, let me just pop this comment up. So I asked my parents and they told me it's like dreaming, but you stay in the dream world. I think that is a much more gentler way to explain things.
Yeah.
Larry
maybe a little
is
closer to the truth too, right?
exactly. And Larry, this is such a good point. It's in the blood. So if we look at, you know, bloodlines and we look at ancestry and things like that, it's really interesting from a past life point of view. So there's, you know, the school of thought of reintegrating or reanimating, for lack of a better word, back into the same family lines as well.
Mhm.
So I think, there is maybe some secrets and messages in the blood. Yeah, what do you think about that, Jake?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there really are no coincidences. I don't believe in them anymore. And things might seem random, or I've certainly had plenty of clients who have a tough time with their family, and they come to me and they're like, why this situation, or why this pattern, or why is my mom like this? Oh my God, my sister, why is she like this? Uh, and then being able to understand the bigger perspective of, okay, yes, that might not be a fun situation, but understanding that at a soul level, you guys made that agreement to experience that, to live through that. And when we choose our family, it's for so many different reasons. And I think that the DNA and the blood is certainly part of it, because not only does that determine who what your life experience is, from more of that nationality or race, or your appearance and stuff like that, but the situations you're put in, the experiences you have, the cultural norms or societal norms that you are a part of or not a part of. And I just think there's a level to it where it's wild when you start to think about all the different moving pieces of this reality. But when you start to recognize the purpose in it, or the meaning in it, I think that, at least for me, I feel much less anxious and out of control, knowing that there is a rhyme and a reason to it, even in those more mysterious situations or experiences.
Yeah. And I think if we can sometimes look at the lesson rather than the person or the character that's showing up to maybe finish out karmic contracts and agreements. And I know in my sessions too, sometimes we're actually breaking those karmic contracts and agreements by using our words as magic to break those spells, or sometimes I feel like curses in ways, and to really claim that sovereignty and that authenticity back. So a lot of this, have a look at where you're placing your energy, because if we're letting energy leak, or we're perhaps showing up more for other people, or we're not living that authentic version of self, we're going to be a watered down version of self too. So I think it's important to realize where your energy is leaking out is just the vision that Spirit's showing me as we're speaking about this. Ben's comment, even though thinking my parents weren't very bright is judgmental, the main thing was that it was very firm in knowing that they were wrong. So it sounds like you had a similar experience. Yeah. And I also just want to point out, I popped it up before. I love this comment. So thank you, Lorianne. So Jake, you met your soulmate, and that's all I see. And you're happy. And yeah, I feel that's a very, very true, beautiful statement.
Oh, yeah.
So having a look into some of the things that popped up in the hypnosis, I know I was talking about, I think within the first 7 minutes of the session, we were talking about multi-stream lifetime gifts, twin telepathy with other versions of self, and other versions of self existing in different realms. And what was sort of, I guess, coming through was it's like a tuning fork. So if we're actually, I've got tuning forks here visually to have a look into. So if we look at,
got my heart chakra one here.
oh, beautiful. I've got the little singing angel one. So if we're looking at, I think it was that example of Sirius that we talked about in the session. So we're looking at that higher version of Sirius, and it's like having that resonance come down, like the more that we can all tune in to that authentic vibration or that musical note from that Sirius version of self, all of a sudden we're getting downloads on light language, getting downloads on working as an oracle. And I think that's the way that some of these memories or past life visions step through. So sometimes it'll be that higher version of self going, hey, you need to pay attention to this because it's part of your life purpose, or I'm here to show up as a guide, is what I quite often see in some of my sessions as well. Did you want to expand on any epiphanies or awarenesses that you had maybe to do with the session?
Oh, I mean, lots and lots. We could be here all day. But really, one of the pieces there that really stuck out to me was, I think, the importance of authenticity for that frequency match, because the thought that I had listening back to the session was around running false programs, or if you're running someone else's program, if you're trying to fit into someone else's ideas, or I mean, that's going to shift your frequency, and it's going to be much harder, if not impossible, I think, to connect with those authentic versions of self that are out there. And I think that the more that we can understand and attune ourselves to that authentic frequency, that will help us match up with the right parts of us and the applicable parts of us that we are being called to connect with. And I remember your higher self talking about the birth chart, and how we will oftentimes be drawn to or will connect with other versions of self that have similar aspects or similar signatures in their birth chart. And that I mean, that makes so much sense on so many levels. And I've seen that in my work too, where past lives that we connect with, or even future lives that we connect with, have that through line, and so often have signatures that resonate with you in this lifetime. And that's totally on purpose, because if you connected with something that was totally, way out there, it's not going to be helpful. It's not going to be useful to you, and it's not going to help you grow. And so that's where, some of the limitations that are on us in this reality and in these human forms is helpful, because there is so much information out there that our soul is connected to and aware of. And if we had all of it, it would be a mess.
Can you imagine? I think, maybe even when we look at certain different types of mental illness, perhaps that's what's happening, is like all radios are on at once, or all frequencies are on at once. And I think that's where more shamanic training and practice needs to come in to help some of these beautiful individuals, or even working with MACE energy method, which Jerry Mazinski talks a lot about. So we do have a question from Lorianne. So she's saying, so with the ascension, are we getting released from the roots that our controllers have had over our energy field? So I feel it's more kind of, I guess, the awareness and awakening. Like if we think about slave race and things like that, and it's the analogy of the elephant that since the baby was chained up to that pole, and we don't realize that we've grown into this big elephant, and we can break free from this chain and choose our own life, or sort of, I guess, not have to follow some of the programs and the systems, or even create new ones. So I think we're more sort of stepping into knowing that we have a creator ability, or a creator mode that we can work with. And I think that's also part of this age of Aquarius. I'm sure Corbin would agree with that too, that we're moving into new higher thought forms and new ways of doing things, and innovation, and new higher information and knowledge coming in to set up, I would say, new earth is a less politically charged way of looking at things, and a positive version of what it is that we see that we're going through. Let me just see if there's any comments that we need to pop up. Was there anything else that you were thinking in connection with any of that?
Well, I think that idea around like the controllers, and that mindset that these other beings, these other entities have power over us, is partially our responsibility, I think. And I think that we're at a point where we're starting to realize and recognize that the ways that we have given power away. And I think when you take a step back and you look at the larger vision of human evolution, or if you're looking at the Yuga cycles and these larger cycles that we're just starting to understand, I think there's still more that will unlock. But I think it helps us to see the ways that these ebbs and flows in consciousness assist us in learning different lessons and understanding the full spectrum of frequency. But I think we're getting to this point where, with those Aquarian energies, we're being called into more of that egalitarian state, or more of that no, we're all souls, we're all a part of God and source, and recognizing our own power, so that we can stop falling into that victim mode. And that isn't to say that every situation, like, you should just like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and stop being a victim. I mean, there's genuine situations where there it's a little more nuanced than that, but I think in general, there's a call to step back into our power.
And it's funny because on the flip side of things, you've got the people that don't ask for help. And that's maybe their lesson to go through, is to, put your hand up, to ask for support, to be vulnerable as well. Really interesting points. And I know Colin wants to explore these topics deeper with you, I saw him say. So
I know we should do an astrology session.
Yeah, definitely. I think that'd be fascinating. So Emma was saying about pulling cards on the situation. So let's have a look and see what comes up. I've got the Mythios deck here today. So we'll pull a few quick cards and see what comes up. I just saw the Empress card before shuffling. So we'll see. Because Empress is all about that ability to manifest and to really draw things in. She's very ripe with potential and fertility, but she also sort of needs to pour that energy into herself because she's quite giving to other people. All right, so we will just flip these over because we are a little bit shorter on time. So we have Knight of Swords. It's interesting. The Four of Coins, the Devil, Nine of Swords, and the Six of Wands. So what's coming up from Spirit in relation to this topic of authenticity? A Knight of Swords is, when we're sort of putting forward, we're taking action on the idea. It's that we're moving from that idea and we're starting to make a change or a movement, or just, as I was saying about, just order the celery juice, or just, join the gym. It's like getting to that point now where you're starting to get your foot in the water, or the waters of that authentic self, or that new version of what it is that you would like to become. Then we have this energy of power. Now, what's interesting, what shows up is the Devil card. So a Four of Disc is earth, air, fire, water, everything's sort of coming together. It's Capricorn and Sun energy. So we know that Capricorn is a very authentic vibration. They do things on their own watch, on their own time. They can be stubborn in that, but it's also at the same time, they have a vision that other people can't come in to disrupt. So they're not turning around to make sure that they have permission for anyone else to be themselves or to climb to that highest point. We see this in a lot of entrepreneurs as well. And then we have the card of the Devil. What we see with this is a lot of distraction, a lot of, it's known as the card of cruelty, sometimes coming in. This was a card that we had come up consistently over our lockdown years here in Melbourne. This energy is sometimes one of interference, or thoughts and noise and everything coming in. Sort of similar to what we were saying before. Imagine having all of the radios on at once. So the answer around this, we have the Six of Wands, which for me is a timeline changing card, all to do with the vibration that we're stepping into or flowing more dominantly. So we do see that there is entities and parasites that are trying to stop us from stepping into that. But the two cards at the start, what you sort of speak and what you create and take action on, it's everything is trying to work to get us onto that timeline, but we have to work out how to tune out from these guys. So tune out from the astral, tune out from the people saying that we can't. And this is why they quite often say, create change or do things in private, unless we're in a beautiful, loving space like this, which is totally fine to, to share. What do you think about that answer in the cards, Jake?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I think the Devil card for me always reminds me of the chains in the Rider-Waite, where the chains are very loose around them. They could just take it right off. They could just take those chains right off. And I think the ways that this really is what we were just talking about, right? The ways that we allow ourselves to be chained or limited or held back or held down. And that while it's certainly not easy, you do have that power to kind of take off your shackles and to step into that authenticity. And I think that what was coming up too was that support piece. And I've seen, and I know we've talked about this before, the higher self is coming through more and more. And I think that more and more people are not only aware of their higher self, but are getting messages, getting downloads, connecting with that part of themselves. And I think that that is no mistake. I mean, it's helping us to tune back into our authenticity. And I've certainly seen a trend where, and we've talked about this before, the trend from guides to higher self, and that more and more people seem to be tuning into other versions of self rather than these more externalized entities. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I was getting there.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the same thing show up in my aura tarot sessions as well. It's so interesting. It's probably been more over the last 2 years, has been like a dramatic shift. Whereas, like looking back into my readings 10 years ago, it was more a rare thing to see someone showing up as a guide for themselves or showing up leading into this parallel reality. And if we explore, there's another connection with the devil card too. It's even though he's a magnetic character, he is often associated with like addiction or alcohol, drugs, various different substances that can sort of fracture us, even if we're looking at like food as an addiction too. And quite often these things will create energetic openings within the aura or within like the mental astral realms of where we get entities and parasites attach. So I think if we can look at this answer around, spiritual and physical, to have a look at how we can starve these things out, it gives just like a deeper layer to the answer as well. I'm just checking if I've missed any comments. What were you going to say?
Just going to say, it's just so funny. Parasites it's been the hot topic. And Corbin and I were just watching a podcast last night, and they were talking about the physical parasites connection to the astral parasites and to the concept of demons and devils, and the ways that that we are more susceptible to those addictions, to falling into like imbalance in our more physical carnal desires when we have those parasites attached, because they're influencing us. And I think that we also see too with the parasites, the mental effects that they have, and the ways that they can stop you from feeling that confidence, or feeling the positivity, or making you do things that you wouldn't normally have done, because you're under their influence. And so I think that piece, the parasite piece, is one of those things that we need to address on multiple different levels. And remembering your power, remembering that no, you're not like just a victim to these things. You have equal, if not more, power over your autonomy and casting them out. And of course, you need to do some of the physical actions to do that. But yeah, I just think it's an important piece that's coming up right now.
Yeah, I really feel that looking at the cards. And I just realized there was another card from a different deck sandwiched between that deck that we just used. And it is the card of meditation, the card of healing. So I think, conscious conversations like this, it's like we're starting to take off that veil or take off the blinders, and we're starting to realize, oh, we actually have to make those physical changes and things. And if you look at any of the parasites under a microscope, they do actually look like little serpents and little, some of them have kind of demon heads and things. It's really, really interesting. And usually they say, do a parasite cleanse for like 2 weeks. What a lot of people are finding is that these things, and I'm trying to think of her name, Mrs. Rogers from Rogers Hood Apothecary, talks about that sometimes you need to do these detoxes for 9 months, because they have, I'm not sure if it was 47 uteruses or something like that within a tapeworm, and they can just like spawn 1 million eggs. Yeah. And then in the die-off process, they eject all of the eggs out to try and keep their survival going. So we need to make that terrain inside the body, like Dr. Robert Cassar talks about. You've got to modify your terrain so you make it uncomfortable so that these things leave your body. And I think if we can look at that outside too, so as within, so without, if we can look at, our environments, and sometimes we have those environments that are grinding us down, we're like pushing up against. So we have to make our frequency higher than that, or we have to shift into alignment to, you know, to even move. I had one client recently, and you know, she'd made a move and was not happy with the choice of the move. And I think if we can feel into things, whether it's with astrocartography and looking at like where your planets fall and where you would have more of a resonance, I think if we can look at life just overall and what pulls my energy down, what raises it, and just keep it to that simple, and like that be our navigation or our GPS guidance system, I think life would be very, very different, rather than thinking about, you know, what's everyone else going to think if I do this? Or maybe I make this choice or decision because that's going to keep my family happy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just, it changes everything if we can really run that authenticity. I forgot to preference the whole start of this chat, that on a hertz level, the vibration of authenticity is even higher than love. So this is part of the reason why we're doing this show today as well. Into, you know, if we can all step into authentic versions of self, we're raising that frequency, and
Mhm.
that's shifting things timeline wise as well. So this is part of the ascension process, and it's a very vital talk in regards to that. Just looking at my little notes as well. Let me just see. So I've written tapping into self. Um, when we tap into that authentic version of self, or like another stream, like a higher version of self, or one of the parallel versions, this changes things on a molecular level and can even change the way that we look. And we see this sometimes. You know, people might move and go live in a different country for a bit, be around like I guess like other experiences, or you even see this actually if someone gets into a relationship that's draining. You'll see sometimes the person, say it's a narcissistic situation, you'll see the person that's the food source start to deplete and look like just a shell of their former self, and then they get out of that situation, you start to see the glow up again too. So yeah, we can actually change things on a molecular level. So being that authentic version of self, or not running with the program of the time clock in terms of aging, you know, we can start to really change our own programs and shift things on a molecular level too. So I think that's a really important thing. Was there anything else that
Mhm.
you wanted to mention? I know we're sort of coming to the top of the hour. I will in the meantime pop up and share both our websites. So
Yeah.
Solreta.com, you will see the discount code running at the bottom of the screen, Leo season. And this will get you 10% off readings with me for that month of August. And it's also, I love to do things like this when it's my birthday to kind of like share. And we have the Soul Alchemy potions. Best way to access the potions would be the bundle, just because each month we talk about different energies we're working with astrologically, manifestation wise. And when you purchase a potion, you also get sent an invite to join our new moon online manifestation events. So next one will be the new moon in Virgo coming up. I think it's around the 24th. So you'll see that adjust and change shortly. And for those of you that have not yet experienced the magic of a session with Jake, you've seen examples of me in session. I'm sure our audience many times online now. And yeah, it is phenomenal. He just has such a beautiful way and energy that holds you in this loving cocoon space to be able to just do what you've got to do in these sessions to get the answers.
Mhm.
And I also see your channel growing as well. So hello to those that are watching on Jake's channel. Please make
Mhm.
sure to hit that notification button, that little bell, and also leave comments too, because that does help the channel to grow. And we've got mine. The next one coming up for me show wise is live psychic tarot readings, which will be on Sunday if you're in Northern Hemisphere, and Monday if you are in Southern Hemisphere, like Emma and myself down here in the other side of the world or other side of the realm. So I just had to mention that. So
Mhm.
was there anything that you were feeling that you wanted to share?
Well, yeah, just making it really clear to you guys, because I mean, likely you've seen the sessions that I've done with Soul where we've connected with her higher self, and I have explored other aspects of hypnosis, and I just have come back to the higher self and that connection to that part of us. And within a session, the connection that you feel, the information that you get, it doesn't just end after the session. And so I'm sure you can attest to this. The connection that you have with your higher self is strengthened, and it's it allows you to not only recognize that connection, but to be able to tap into it easier. And so I think that that's one of the really beautiful things about these experiences, and being able to tap into this part of yourself in trance, is it opens that up. And one of my favorite things about hypnosis is that it is so empowering, and it is about you finding your answers, not going externally. And I think there's a time and a place for going externally, of course, but there's also a time and a place for going internally and to connecting with your own answers and your own knowing. And, you mentioned making a move and not feeling happy there. One of the ways that I can help people is to take them into the future, to check out that move, to check out that life change, whether it be a relationship or a new job or whatever it might be, and understand, how does that feel? How does that look? What's that reality like? So that you can make the best decisions in the now moment, to get you on that timeline that you want. And that's really what this,
when you say that,
it's powerful stuff. And that's really why I love working in the quantum like this, is that it allows you to it's not about like cheating or like cheat codes and finding your way through like in that sort of a like dubious way. It's about helping you to tap into that broader vision and understand things from a larger perspective. And I think just move through your incarnation in a more purposeful and intentional way, which, life is precious. Like, the time that we have here is short in some sense. And so I think making the most of our lives, making the most of our incarnation, it's important. So
yeah, I think that. And I think the other thing too, from a feminine perspective, following the cycles that we were talking about before, uh, sometimes I know I beat myself up if I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling productive today. Sometimes we actually need to rest, rejuvenate, and then the next day is like warp speed, going like 10 miles ahead. So I think it's important to honor that as well. But yeah, I definitely feel that, as you said, in a hypnosis session with you, checking in like what your higher self says in response to like what city to live in. I see it in the cards too. We quite often will pick cards not looking at them, but we feel into the vibration of what comes up comparing cities to cities. And it's always so interesting because there's different experiences or different segue past lives in that. And also sending out love to Larry. I see he's lost a good friend. So yeah, just sending you extra love at the moment. And Lorianne is saying, Sol and Jake share two beautiful hypnosis sessions on both their channels. Please go and check them out. They're powerful. Thank you. And Larry is saying, we are not cheating death, but respecting this reality. Yeah. And I think what you said too, it's really been on my mind. I don't know if it's because, birthday coming up and you sort of think about time differently when it's around that, which I'm trying not to think of. I always sort of say, I still feel 25, and it's like, I'm going to keep programming good things like that into my body. But yeah, I've definitely felt like looking at like, what do you want to achieve with the time that you've got? What is it that's like really, really important? And what is it that you maybe would sort of purge out or think, I don't want to spend like this amount of time dwelling on that. And I think that's where it can sort of force us to make change, to really like value that time that we have.
And I think that's such a big part of living authentically, is recognizing those ways that you're people pleasing, or you're just going along with it because of some expectation from someone else, or some perceived expectation. Like that's the worst thing that I do, is like, it's not even a real expectation or something that someone actually has said to me. It's all in my head, where I've projected this onto them, and then I'm acting out of this perceived expectation from someone else. It's really wild the way that our egos work, right?
Yeah. And
it's
interesting because that can be, certain astrological placements as well, that we start to sort of look into different characters or, perceived connotations about like way people are thinking. And
I think
it's
it's
so
a
funny.
Libra thing, at least for me.
I was going to say, it's like Libra or Gemini, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because where have you got your Libra placement?
Libra rising.
Oh, yeah. I've got Gemini rising, Libra moon. So that's like a lesson that we've had to overcome too, is, not to worry so much about other people, or not to have those conversations in your head without sort of like feeling into things. And I think life becomes much easier when we let go of those pretexts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think on the flip side, it's helped at least me, and I'm sure you can attest to this, that it's helped me to be more compassionate and to be thoughtful of others, and to be caring and kind and loving, which are all positive things. But of course, there's the balance. And I think that's a big thing with Libra too, right? You have the scales. It's about
Yeah.
learning that balance between self and other, and giving and receiving and all of that.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think this is probably going to lead us into another show with Corbin as well, which,
Oh, I know,
yeah,
right?
Corbin, we would love to have you if you would like.
Honorary third member of this show.
Exactly. So yeah, I've gone through maybe one page of the notes that I had. And it's funny, Jake and I were saying as well, like, with our questions and everything. And we're like, you know what? There's always things to talk about. I think it's just setting the time, setting the space, and the energy always sort of dictates like where we go. So as
Mhm.
Lorianne is saying, please remember to hit that subscription button, that little bell. And we so appreciate your love, guys. For
Mhm.
anything that you're looking for from what we've talked about in terms of like offerings that Jake and I have, you'll see everything in the description box below. Do you have any special events or things coming up that you want to share before we go?
Not at the moment. It's been a moment, I think, with all the retrograde energy of just kind of pulling back into myself. And I mean, some of you may have noticed I'm posting a little less on YouTube. I'm pulling back to really suss out what is authentic to me, and what do I want to do, and what do I want to show up, and trying to put my energy into figuring that out, so that I'm not just wasting my energy on other things. And so I am planning some workshops for the fall, but I haven't decided any dates, or exactly what's going down yet. But hopefully in September, doing a workshop here, and I will definitely share that out. I do have another session recording with someone else, which I'm really excited to share with you guys towards the end of the month. And then I'll be having her on my channel to discuss that too. Christian, some of you may know Christian from the chat and from our community. He's coming back on my channel next week as well to talk more about our session together and some of the themes that came up there. So lots cooking, lots going on, but then also a lot going on internally. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's important to respect that. And I love the different things that come out of the different sessions. I think it's almost like a catalog or a library that we're able to, it's like an invisible Harry Potter library that we're able to tap into and pick
mhm.
off different books from the shelf. That's the way that I see, like when you talk about the sessions, there's like a deeper level of awareness that comes up. Oh, I also want to share, I haven't popped it up yet, but Barry Littleton and I will be doing a show coming up. I think it'll be next Friday, was the date we were looking at locking in. So this will be on alien hybrids. It will also be around telepathy, telekinesis, and precognition. So a not to be missed show. And I also have another show coming up shortly with the beautiful Emerald, the love coach, and updates on her amazing manifestation. So definitely keep a lookout for that. But love you guys. Jake and I are so grateful for our beautiful audience. And I'm so grateful for you coming into my life, Jake, as
Oh,
well, and doing your
the
amazing
feeling
session.
is mutual.
Well, I look forward to our next little chat. But everyone, look after each other, and we will see you again soon. Bye.
Love you all. Bye.